In software engineering, we are taking chapter number 6, Human Aspects of Software Engineering. We are following the book from Pressman and Maxim. So software engineering is a science, is a subject in computer science, and it has a lot of techniques, tools, method, and this is all for making of good software. So how to improve the software, process. You have to make a software or an app or website. So we are talking about software as a final product. But software is developed by whom? By people like you and me. Who use it? People like you and me. And this software is all about people. Because if we are not there, who will use the software? So the human characteristics, human thoughts, human behavior, human cooperation is a key to actual software development. If you don't have a skilled work, if you don't have people who are motivated, how are you going to get this success? Success will be unlikely. The environment, the people, the interaction, everything is important. What are the characteristics of a software engineer? That is, some peculiar properties, some traits which makes you a good software engineer. So if you are a software engineer, just a software engineer, you might be some graduate in computer science field. So basically you are using your technical stuff, what you have read. You are learning, applying these skills because you need to understand the problem. It's all about problem solving because software is a problem and you need to provide solution to the customer. So you are actually building the software. You are testing it because you have to ensure the quality also. But equally important here is the human aspect, because technical aspect is very important. But as a human being, as a human who is working to develop a software in the field of software, because there were many people there. So Erdős, he identified 7 different characteristics, traits, properties. When a software engineer, he becomes a super software engineer, or you can say he becomes a super professional in the field of software development. So what are the behavior he is showing? What are the traits important to him? The first thing is a super professional person. He takes individual responsibility. That is, as a software engineer, you have some work in your hand. You have promised something. You are promising to your peers, in team, stakeholders, management. So your individual responsibility is important. Acute awareness. See, if you're driving a car, you see here and there, the car may some mishap may occur. So if you are in HCL or TCS, any good company, now there is an environment, so you have to be very aware of the environment and how to behave there. So observation and behavior aspect change is important. Brutally honest. That means if the design is wrong, the code is not good, you can very honestly, respectfully point out the problems, flaws, and this has to be a good criticism because it's all about constructive software development. If somebody comes to you, like your manager, etc., the management, and says, let us change the schedule, or say 50 requirements are there and we just have done 40, claim 45, just say 45 or 48, or some performance issues, they can tell you that, okay, some file transfer is there and 5 Mbps speed they have asked, and we are getting around 3, so you can claim that it's as good as 5. So there are certain things, you need to be very truthful and realistic in just denying it. Resilience under pressure. If you are a super professional software engineer, so pressure, chaos, frenziness, it comes in many forms. Because as a software engineer, and even as a human being, you will always be under certain pressure in your life. because the requirements are changing. The priorities of the user is changing because of the changing environment, the business environment, and the demand which stakeholders put in front of you. They may be unrealistic, or the manager is putting all the pressure on you. So you don't have to succumb to this pressure. You have to be a resilience, you have to take that pressure. That is, you should not suffer. Your performance should not suffer. Sometimes people don't work or can't work in the pressure. Heightened sense of fairness. As a good person, individual, you have to share the credit, and you can just give the credit to your peers, to colleagues gladly. Just try to avoid any kind of conflict of interest, because people work, they want their credit. So just, give them credit. Attention to detail. See, actually, you are a technocrat. So everything is important. Performance. You have to see the cost. The quality should be highest. So the time, cost, schedule, performance, functional, non-functional requirements, all these have to be very keenly seen and to be implemented. Okay? Pragmatic. Pragmatic means, see, it's not Hinduism or Islam that you cannot change anything. It's there, so you have to follow it. Whatever people say, you have to follow it without any logic. But here, it's all about logic, making a software. So you need to adapt according to the circumstances, environment, changes. When waterfall model came, everyone was so happy. Oh my God, what a model it is there. But today, who is using waterfall model? Most of the people are using extreme programming, Scrum, and there is other variety of models they are using. So changes always occur. The psychology of software engineering. So what is the intent, thought behind the software engineering? Here we have Bill Curtis and Deanne Walls. So in this seminal paper on the psychology of software engineering, these two eminent people, they suggested a layered behavior model for software development. And that they presented in their seminal paper. Okay? Because software engineering is not all about product, tool, techniques. There has to be some behavioral model also. So there is a problem because you are solving a problem. Software is a problem. You are providing a solution, which is a software. So there are individuals. Individual makes a team. Then there is a project under which this team work. The company in which this project is coming, and then the business environment. So at an individual level, the software engineering psychology is all about knowing the problem, applying the problem solving skill, and then how to do or how to implement the solution within the constraints which are put up by the outer layer, which are the business environment, company, etc. At the team and project level, these two levels, the group dynamics becomes a very important and dominating factor. Because here people are involved, how they're interacting, how they're working. So here the communication, collaboration, coordination, because you are as an individual, how you're communicating with the, say, project manager, developer, how they are talking, the project manager and the stakeholders, how they are talking, how they are getting the information, how they are, deploying, etc. At the outer layers, if you go, the organization behavior, it governs the action of the company and its response to the business environment. Why would people want to go to Google? The environment, the way of working, everyone wants to go there. So here organization behavior is governing the action of the company. At the team level, because here it is a group of people. So what has happened? We have already created boundaries. I am a project manager. He is a project leader. We don't talk. Developer, why would we talk to? We have assigned the tasks. He will do it. But the thing is, the face-to-face conversation, which is the key of the agile methods, is important. So now there are people who are suggesting boundaries spanning roles. Here, to allow members of the software team to move across these boundaries, because we have already made certain boundaries. We should not talk, or we are senior, either he is junior, like this, or this is different team, the IT team is not good, like this. So these boundaries spanning roles, these roles may come by itself, or you can assign them explicitly. They can even evolve naturally in certain companies. Sometimes the companies which follow a very professional way, there is a product owner, project manager, and he's taking care of the software architect, developers, the software designers, the people who look for the quality assurance people, then the business who take businesses and see the environment of other businesses. These are business analysts. So these are the roles for boundaries spanning roles. First is ambassador. Now, ambassador is those, they are negotiating with the others about the time and the resources, and they are getting the feedback from the stakeholders who is going to give you the project or who has given you the project. Scout. Now he crosses the team boundary. See, there is an organization, there is a team. So he is crossing the team boundary and he is trying to collect the organizational information. Okay. The information can be inside, it can be outside. So this scouting is all about scanning the external market. What is the new technologies which are coming up, and identifying the relevant activities which is outside the team, and what will be the potential competition for the company. For example, say Facebook and Google. These are two companies. The scout has to work for it. Guard. Now, the name suggests it is protecting the access to the team work product. There are various work product like the documentation, like the software code, etc. So he has to guard. Sentry. Now here, the flow of information has to be controlled. That stakeholder is giving, the team is sending. So the sentry is all about controlling the information. Then the coordinator. So a certain thing comes up, how to communicate, how to solve the problem within the organization. For example, in order to discuss certain specific design problem or a modeling problem with a group of specialists inside the organization, we need a coordinator. So these are the roles of trying to find out the boundaries spanning or moving across the boundaries which we have artificially created. What is the software team? Team is all about people who are working for a specific goal. So in a very good book, Peopleware, we have heard about software, hardware, firmware. There's so many wares are there. Malware. So DeMarco and Lister, they discuss in this book about the cohesiveness, the oneness, the way people are gelled together in a software team. So here, business team or the team is all about a work being assigned and they are working together to get some result. Okay, they have a common goal. So the main thing is the gellness, that is how people are working together. Are they together? This is missing. But if the team is working together, they are gelling together, the team will be unstoppable. They will get the success. Okay? They will be highly motivated. 1-1 is not 2. 1-1 is 11. In cricket, if all the player plays to their potential, they will surely beat the top ranking teams. So a good team is the team which is acting as a one. So here, DeMarco and Lister, they also said that those teams which are working as a team, actual team, they have good, oneness. They are giving credits to each other. They are respecting. They are solving the problems of others. So they are productive and motivated also. And they have a kind of common goal and a common culture. And then there will be some sense of eliteness. It is not that we are so good, not like that's eliteness, that we are together, so we can do whatever is given to us. But there is no way how can we make a gelled team, means a team which act as one. But there are certain attributes which are found in an effective software team. So Miguel Carrasco, he has suggested that if the software team has to be called as an effective software team, we need to establish certain facts, certain thoughts. What are these? Sense of purpose. That is, if the team is agreeing to a common goal, they know that we will transform this product category, will make certain thing which will make us industry leader, and we are doing it for some certain purpose. Sense of involvement. Involvement means everyone is involved, everyone's contribution is valued. Someone can be designer, someone can be tester. All the skill set are being used vitally, and their contribution is credited and valued. The sense of trust. That is, we say he's a manager, there is an HR guy. So we need to trust everyone's skills. Everyone is there for a reason. So we need to trust your seniors, juniors, etc. Sense of improvement is because the software engineering and other computer science technologies are ever changing. So we have to improve our work. If you go to Somerville, Rajiv Mal's book or Pressman's, every time they come up with new edition because the field is changing. But most of the time we have seen the teams are not effective and they don't gel well. They don't become one as a team. So Jackman, she said that many of the team, they suffer from team toxicity. That is why the work is not done, the software is not good. There are 5 factors that will make an environment or the team toxic. That is not preferable to work. It can be a chaotic work atmosphere. That is, nothing is planned, everything is chaotic, frenzied. High frustration, because there is always a problem between people. They're fighting, the manager is not good, the team is switching from one job to another like this. The fragmented or poorly coordinated software process, if you decided some process, but you have not properly you're not properly following it. There is an unclear definition of the roles. Who is the program leader, program manager, developer? There is no proper, someone is junior and he is acting as a senior sometime. So clear cut roles and laid down rules should be there. And if the team is failing most of the time, this will create team toxicity. One will say it is because of them, the other will say it is because of him, like this. That is how team toxicity develops. So, most of the team, as Jackman said, the team are chaotic. Our work environment is chaotic. How to nullify this chaotic work environment? First thing is that the team should have all the information required to do the job. That is, the major goals and objectives, if they are defined, there shouldn't be modification and changes every time. And give the responsibility, decision making to individuals, to people who are working with you. If there is a process which you have decided, say a software development lifecycle, and it is not working, you have decided a very good software process, but it is not giving product, but you have loosely finalized a software process, software life SDLC, and it is working, go with that. And the team should have a way to account themselves. So technical reviews can be done. Some problem is there, you can go for some corrective approaches, because failure will always be there. But how to get past that problem, how to solve it, this will avoid the chaotic work environment, right? So internal mechanism should be there, and it should be very easy to follow, not very hard. Then because of this, the feedback will come, and then the problem solving can be done. Because the only problem is problem. So the only solution is to solve it. Okay. So these are the way to avoid a chaotic work environment. These are the people with different traits, different thoughts, different behavior, different emotions. So our software team often struggles with different people. They have different traits. Okay. Let us talk about Canada, America. There are people from different ethnicity. Nigerian, Indian, Chinese, everyone is working there. They all have different cultures, thoughts, and even every country has, or every school, college, everywhere you see, even in your family, there are people who are extroverts, there are people who are introverts. I'm just talking about different human traits, and this happens in a software industry also. Some team members, they just talk. Some, they don't like talking. Some people may gather information from internet, from disparate facts. They will just learn the broad aspects. Some would want the minute detail. They will try to get the information linearly. Some says that, okay, this is okay. Some say, no, it has to be like this. Some practitioners, they want some specific time. Give me time, so it's 2 months or 3 months. Some says, okay, 2 months, 3 months, okay, let's see. Some people, they work hard to get the milestone from the beginning. And like engineers, they study last minute. That is why we do the last minute reading. So some people who are just working before the deadline. These are the human traits of the members. Team structures. So let us talk about cricket. There is a team of 11 players. So there will be batsman, there will be bowler. So the team is made such that it's a winnable team. So in order to make a good team, best team, there are various factors. The first thing is the organization, management. That is how the management is conceiving the team. How many number of people are required? As 11 players are required in a cricket team. What will be the skill levels? That is, some skill set, some experienced, problem difficulty. If you're playing with England and New Zealand, you want a real good team. Mante, in terms of making a software engineering team, he described the factors for software development. So how will be the planning, or how to plan the structuring of the team? So he said, first thing, you're making a software, you're making an app or a website. What is the difficulty of the problem? Whether it is complex project, whether it is a small project. Then how many line of codes or function points are there? That is the size of the resultant software program. This is also a deciding factor. Then how much time this team members or team will be, say, in existence, and how long these players will stay together. Say in 3 months every member will change or the new team will take over. How the problem can be modularized, or the degree to which. For example, if whole of the project is like this, how far we can divide it. The one team can do some work, the other team can do another work. So this is a kind of compartmentalization. Now there are certain software which require a quite of quality and reliability. Well, every software should have, but the extent that also decides how the software structure will be there of team. There will be a delivery date rigidity. So how rigid it is? That is, if you have to deliver it in 1 year or 6 months, now the team structure may change according to the rigidity of that delivery date. Then how much communication is required? That is only communication at the beginning or the end, or the communication has to be within the team, with the stakeholders. How much communication is required? So here we have Larry Constantine. So he suggested 4 organizational paradigms for software engineering teams. So any organization can have a team, and that can follow certain traits. So he gave four of them. So it depends on the project also, it depends on the work product also. So the first one is the closed paradigm. So you see here, it's all about traditional hierarchy. So this closed paradigm is structuring a team in a proper traditional hierarchy of authority. That is the boss, then the subordinates and their subordinates. And this hierarchy can go up to the level the organization want. Now, the thing is that this is a kind of conventional and historically it is the oldest. So for a project or a work which has already been done earlier, this closed paradigm team will work very good. But if there is something innovative, something new, something challenging, then there will be some problem in this closed paradigm. The second one is the random paradigm. Here, the structuring is quite loose. That is, in closed, the work has been done. So the closed can easily do, not innovativeness if it is not there. But the random paradigm, the concrete authorization is not there. That is, the team is loosely defined and everything is dependent on the individual member. If some innovation, technological breakthrough, new stuff have to be made, the team will do very good. It will excel because it depends on the individual initiative of the member. But if you need an orderly performance, like there is an already project being made, there has to be a way to be followed, then this random paradigm may struggle. Then we have the open paradigm. So this open paradigm is a kind of adaptive collaboration. That is the closed paradigm plus random paradigm. If you combine them, there will be some hierarchy, but every hierarchy, the members will be given some say autonomy, or they will be loose in their work. They will be given some autonomy. So work is performed collaboratively, very heavy communication, and everything will be consensus based. Everyone has to decide and say on decision making. For a complex problem, bigger problem, this open paradigm will be real good. It is well suited for complex problem. Okay? Because here the closed and random is combined together. A synchronous paradigm. In synchronous paradigm, synchronous means if you are making a video and you are also speaking, so the audio video are not matching, that is not synchronous. But if the audio video is matching, that is synchronous. That is the word I am trying to explain. But in this case, team structures, the synchronous paradigm is all about, because you see here, there's a kind of alignment. Okay. So this synchronous paradigm is organizing the team members to work on the pieces of the problem. What are the pieces? If you are given some software, that problem can be divided into certain parts or pieces, and team members are working on the pieces, and there will be least communication between them. So this is the, say a certain factor of little communication that is there. Here you see Harlan Mills. Now I am taking you to the history. Historically, Harlan Mills, he proposed, along with other members and other people who added like Baker. So one of the earliest software team organization he proposed, and it was a closed paradigm. And we already talked about closed, open, synchronous, etc. So we are talking about closed paradigm, and this was called as a chief programmer team. Chief programmer team. So this follow a proper hierarchy, means every level is properly defined. I'll tell you what are the names being given. So here is a view, and the nucleus or the key person, the main person, is a senior manager, also called as the chief programmer. And he is responsible for the key things like the planning. He'll make the plans. He will coordinate different teams, different work. And all the technical activities, he is responsible for the reviewing. He will review what is the work, what you have done. All this will be done by the senior engineer. We are calling him as the chief engineer. Then comes the technical staff. Now, the staff are around 2 to 5 people who are actually technically working or helping or contributing. They are conducting the analysis. Whatever is done, they have to analyze it, find out what is lagging, what needs to be added. So this is the analysis of the work, and all the development activities will be done by the technical people. There will be a backup engineer. Now he is actually supporting the senior engineer, and he is alike, you can say at the equal level with senior engineer. Because if something happens to senior engineer, if he shifts, he gets transferred, senior manager, backup manager engineer can replace him. Now this chief engineer or chief programmer will be supported by certain people who are specialists in their work. For example, if a hardware person is there and he is supposed to lead a team of software, he needs certain people like the database designer. If the project is related to telecommunication, he needs certain people who are expert in telecommunication. So one or more specialists will be there with him who are serving chief engineer. And there will be support staff, there will be some writing, there will be documents generated, someone has to type, and somewhere the configuration management or the booklets have to be placed. So there will be a software librarian also. Now Constantine, I'll talk about him. So he said the random paradigm. He said that there will be some creative independence. When you give creative independence, that this is our team and we give them freedom. Just do the way you want. There will be innovation, but there will be some anarchy also. Anarchy is a chaotic situation. See, what we are trying to suggest here, we have to give the autonomy, but to the limit so that the project work properly. So we are talking about a free-spirited approach, but the initiative, the skill has to be, or you can say the creative energy of these people have to be channelized, because our central goal, central idea is to make a good software and software engineering practices. Agile teams. So agile is all about energy. It's about flexibility, welcoming the change, motivation, working together for the central goal, always active, always working, everyday working. So agile software development, it was being suggested as an injection or an antidote for multiple problems which were there in software development life cycles, like the waterfalls, like the iterative, like the prototypes, etc. So, in the changing market scenario and the customer requirements, the agile software development was suggested. Now, this agile philosophy or the agile methodology is all about satisfying your customer first. He is the key for your work. And when you are giving the product, don't give it at the end. You have to give incremental delivery of the software. Get the feedback, work on it, again give the increment. And these teams should be small, but should be highly motivated. They would follow certain informal methods, say that they can meet on coffee, discuss, that can, meetings they can have. So in various organizations, there is a formal way, but here we are talking about agile teams which are following informal methods. And the software engineering work products like the documentation, like various, this has to be very small, minimal, and it should be simple. The development activity should be as simple as possible. No complexity is involved in the agile development. So what is a generic agile team? Generic agile team is all about energy. Agile is all about flexibility. So agile philosophy, we are talking about a generic agile team. So this agile philosophy, agile methodology of software development, when we talk about imparting it to a team, it stresses on the individual single person's competency. anyone. But this is combined as a group, as a team. When the individual power is combined, then the success of the project will come. Only Ronaldo cannot win a football game. Everyone has to be there, right? Then we have Jim and Mr. Cogburn. So they also suggested something. What they suggested? He wrote, and they both were in the of the argument that if the people on the project are good, you will get your assignment completed. But if they are not good, what will repair this gap? People trump process. Okay, this is the people trump process. But the lack of the user and the executive support will kill the project. That is the politics trump people. So agile teams need to be self-organizing, self-changing, self-governed. And as we suggested, the Constantine's random, open, synchronous paradigm, they can follow any of these, but they need to be self-organizing. Many agile process models like the Scrums, like the XPs. So the main idea is to give the autonomy to the team, the freedom to the team to do various activity, like the project management activity, how to manage the whole project. The team will decide. Every technical discussion, technical review, meetings, development activity, who will govern it? They need freedom, and they get the freedom to do it. In this generic agile team, the planning is as minimum as possible. And the team is said that you follow any approach. They can check, they can finalize what process they are going to follow, the methods, the tools they are going to use. The only constraint, only the boundary is what is your business requirement, and because the team works under certain organization, what are the standards they have to follow. Otherwise, they can choose any process, any methods, any tools. That is, they are again given the freedom. Now, as the project is proceeding, for example, there is a software project. Now it goes on. Now the team self-organizes itself, self-align itself. Because now the individual skill, competency, work, this is taken care so that the project can be benefited. How do we do this? We do this by team meetings. Agile team, they meet together, say for 15-20 minutes. They have a cup of coffee or tea and they coordinate, they synchronize the work, what is being done, what has to be done, what is the problem, how to solve it, what are the ways, and the support being given. Everyone works as a team and then they adapt the change to the situation. Means in order to get the work done, they will change the approach. It can be changed every day. Every day there will be self-work, self-organization, self-governing, and the intimacy of the team, collaboration. And this will be done till the software increment is completed. The XP team, extreme programming team. So there are certain phases of XP we talked about. We have seen about the pair programming, the use cases, stories, etc. So Beck, he said, if you are following the extreme programming, there are 5 values you need to understand and keep in your mind for extreme programming. This is also an agile way of development. But when it comes to team formation or human aspect, there are certain values that Beck has proposed. It's communication, simplicity, feedback, courage, and respect. Then only the extreme programming can be done fruitfully. So communication, simplicity, feedback, courage, and respect. Communication is all about talk, face to face. Simplicity, make it simple, no documentation, not much of complexity. Feedback, you need to get the response, courage, and respect. You'll see what this means. So how to get all these things done? So these 5 values, the first one is communication. In order to get this proper communication, and this can be between the member of the team, between the team and the stakeholders, or various people, because if you don't talk to the stakeholder, how would you know what are the features and functions you want? What are the requirements they have? So the extreme programming and all the kinds of the agile methodologies, they propose an informal collaboration, verbal collaboration, face-to-face collaboration, continuous feedback. What you have done? Okay, you have done this thing. Now this is the change. This is the scenario, and the documentation which were, if you remember waterfall model, right from the requirement analysis till the maintenance time, lot of documentations are there. But here we don't want documentation that much. We need, but not that much. What about simplicity? Simplicity is all about designing for a particular increment, not for the whole product. That is, make a simple design so that this design can be easily coded, can be easily implemented. Later the design can be improved. And how can it be improved? We learned about refactoring. So the whole idea is about making simple design. If there is some problem, you can have a prototype developed. Okay. And in order to develop, design, refactoring. Now the important part comes here is feedback. You are getting response from various ways, sources. For example, if you're making a software, you know what good, what bad things you have done. The customer will tell you when you give him this increment, the delivery, and the other team members also, you are doing pair programming, you're talking to them every day. So the software itself provides you the feedback because there are certain tests being done. So there will be unit tests, there will be, integration tests, regression tests, so many tests we perform. And the primary testing which we do on a function or a unit is unit test. If you have developed a class or you have implemented certain functionality, a unit test can be performed and then you can get the feedback. Because now you know these are the bugs, here the problem is there, here this code is failing the whole function. Okay, so as you deliver the customer the increment, you already created a user story and there will be some requirement specification like use cases. So there will be some acceptance test of the user. So he will give you the response. And as you're getting the new response, because you are doing iterative planning in the agile methodology, the XP. Because when you're planning iteratively, there will be some change with respect to the project management or the project planning. For example, the cost may change, the schedule may be impacted, time. So this you can also give the feedback or get the feedback. So Mr. Beck is saying that if you are able to adhere to these values, you need courage and discipline. Whatever methodology you are following in XP, if you are in an XP team, you also need to have courage and discipline. For example, if someone says that you have to design the software from the scratch till the end, that means for the whole software, you say no, I will make the design just for this increment and I'll make the different design or I'll change the design when I have to implement or I have to implement the other code. That is, we don't design for tomorrow in XP. It saves the time and effort because the software requirement, the user requirement, the market requirement can change dramatically and drastically. So here you have to show the courage. No, I'm going to design for today, not for tomorrow. This XP needs, extreme programming needs. Okay. Now, when you follow all these values, it will be an inherent respect being developed among the members, between you and the stakeholders, between the team members, and directly or indirectly for the software. If you make a good software, you make a good increment, you will feel respect. If your team is working good, respect will come out of it. The impact of social media. Now, most of us are on social media like the Facebook, like Twitter, etc., Instagram. So email, text messaging, video conferencing like Zoom call, Google Team, etc., they are now everywhere. These software. Actually, they are a supplement or a substitute for actual face-to-face one-on-one conversation. And it is a good substitute because what we saw in the endemic time, that we need to have something so that the work goes on, and we used it. Social media is somewhat different. Now, Bagel argued, he addressed how this social media has grown for the use or in the use of software engineering, software development lifecycle. So everyone wants to talk, they want to collaborate, and this this was the advent of using these social media. And as the team will grow, the connection also will grow. And most of the time, when the team are geographically dispersed, we have seen when the work from home started, one is at Bangalore, the other person is sitting at Kanpur, there is some other person at Gurgaon. There are different cities of a country. So in order to work out a software project, because social media is so used, first we have to finalize what social network we have to use. And using this network, now any problem, any question, any issue can be discussed within the team, with the team and the stakeholder, other people like technology specialists and the business people. So the communication and the problem solving can be done. One example is blog. Blog is all about writing short articles, very small articles, and these are a series of articles. And here you can tell about the system, the present status, the features, the function, what have to be developed, how to be developed, and what are your approach. This can be written in the short articles and people will follow it, read it. So these software companies, they are frequently using this blog in order to share the technical information to their employees, to the customer, both internal people and external people. So a kind of, a broadcasting of information is there about the technical stuff, about the status, about the information. Then we have microblogs like Twitter we have. So Twitter is allowing certain words, say 140 words, what you can write here. Now you put certain short message. There are so many people who may be following you or you can follow them. Some say your organization head or your project head. Now the message is written, it is quite instantaneous. Everyone has mobile now, so you can just get it online real time. So it's all about talking in terms of giving information. So if certain things arises or a meeting has to be scheduled or you have to inform certain, certain people like the stakeholders, this is the aspect of the project, all this can be done using these microblogs. There are targeted online forums. Now, this is a group of people who are working on a, say, single field, like someone is working in GIS, other one is FB, Facebook, or someone is working in FPGA. So here, these are online forums, and you can post questions, you can get the answers, you can also give your opinions, and even people write the case studies, what they have done, what problem they had, and what are the solutions. So it's a kind of discussion forum. So you can get multiple answers. Most of the problem solving can be done here on the targeted online forums. So microblogs, targeted online forums are also there. And who not is aware of this LinkedIn or Facebook? So we put our resume here, our information, people call us for the jobs. Facebook, everywhere. It's now the most popular social networking websites. So we can use social networking sites like these, Facebook, LinkedIn. And here we are actually trying to connect to the friends. But here friends are our technical friends. Here we can share the knowledge, share the expertise, or get the knowledge and expertise from a particular application domain. Because if you have some problem, you can go to Facebook, even to the LinkedIn, and you can post your question, you can get the answer. Because people are active here. There are so many users. So we have the social bookmarking sites also, like the Delicious, Tumbles site you like. Whenever you read a book, what you do? You read, say, 4 pages today, then you put a bookmark. So this kind of bookmark we are talking about. and there are so many popular social bookmarking sites, and they are recommending the web-based resources that you can utilize, especially the like-minded individuals. They form a community. But whenever we are using social media, the privacy and the security has to be kept in mind. Everything has two faces of the coin. For example, if you are working with certain company and there is an employer and you are disclosing or say writing something which may be harmful for the interest of the company, so that is also not advisable. Talk, get the opinion, communicate, collaborate, but not harm. Software engineering using the cloud. So cloud is a technology or a scheme. Here, the cloud is providing you the resources. Like two people are here. We don't need computer. The computing power resources is being provided by the cloud. The storage is provided by the cloud. The infrastructure, the software. There are so many things cloud is providing. You just have to use it. The services of the like infrastructure as a service, the PaaS, the software as a service. So cloud computing is a mechanism where we can access all these software engineering products like work products we have made. There are certain artifacts we can just talk about, and the project related, if you're talking about a project related information. So this benefit is that it runs everywhere, anywhere, and you don't have to depend on any device because you are working with the cloud, and the cloud is all about giving you independency. So you can conduct certain platform independent work. If you want to check some software tools, you can do it here, and you can get the feedback on certain software tools. You may be using it later in your work. So you don't have to buy it. You don't have to install software at every workstation or say system. So this is say you are trying to put the software for the beta testing. This can be done easily on cloud, and the content and configuration the change management can be done also on the cloud. Now the software engineering information, if one member is developing, it will be instantly available to all the members. They may be using any platform, they may be at any location. The cloud is giving you that benefit that you can do it at your will. So cloud computing also, milieu means the environment. So cloud computing is also with risk, because here we are talking about privacy and security. See, the time cloud is coming, there are so many servers, architecture, services. Now these are not under your control. When you work in an organization, it's under your control. But when you are dependent on the cloud, you don't know what is going to happen. There can be some failure, there can be some reliability, or the issues like security. So as the services are increasing, the cloud is growing, there are problems that you can face with respect to the interoperability. There may be risk on this. And as I said about the privacy and security and reliability, if you are depending on this cloud, this has also to be seen, because usability, performance, all are there, but there are attributes which are when you are depending on certain other agency. But if you take the human perspective, this cloud is offering more benefits than the other issues like risk, etc. for the software engineers. Okay. Collaboration tools. Collaboration tools, these tools are actually the software tools, the automated tools. So Filippo Lanubile, he suggested, other people also, that now previously we used to have software development environment. We has a whole suite of Visual Studio like that, the LDRAs and the rationals, etc. So this has actually changed faces, morphed into a collaborative development environment, CDE. So previously we used to call them SDE, software development environment. Now they have changed to collaborative development environment, like it developing together. So what he is stating, that these tools, so we talked about the CASE tools, computer aided software engineering. So we are talking about that only. We are just elaborating it that in order to facilitate it, we need automation, some controlling has to be done. So software engineering, mainly in the global scenario, because the distances are there, we need to control, coordinate. So the communication is also there. So these are all can be solved, or issue can be resolved using this collaborative development environment. People are here, there, they're talking every time, somewhere they need help. And these are all the collaboration tools that will help in development of software, employing the software engineering terminologies and specialities. So communication, as I said, collaborative development environments. The CDE, there are a set of services which a CDE will provide, because this is all about working together in a collaboration. And these services are basically namespace. For example, you want to store your product, like the documentation, like your software product, like your different versions. So here, when you have work product like the documentation or your code, you need them to be at secure and private place, and there has to be some authorization also. So for that, the CDE provides us a service called namespace. Okay. So this is all about collaborative work. This is a namespace. Calendar. There are so many events lined up, meetings. If you talk about Scrum, it is every day. So a calendar is there. Then we have templates. So document generation is one of the tasks of software engineering. So if you are developing a requirement specification, or other person is also making it, the template has to be consistent. The look and structure field should be consistent. Then the matrix. What is the contribution? What is the work done by a member? How to know that? So we need some quantitative output that this matrix will provide us. So you can track the contribution also. Communication analysis. How is the communication going on? What communication was done? So it tracks the communication across the team. And there's one more important thing which the CD is providing, is artifact clustering. Now there are certain questions is being answered, that who actually wanted the change, who triggered the change. So what was discussed, what was changed, what was the consultation, and how this is going to affect the other work or other people work. So this is the artifact clustering at a single place, all about changes, who done it, how is the effect going on. What is the ripple effect? So these are CD's services. Global teams. Global means throughout the world. Because if, say, a company in Gurgaon, India, now they are working with their company which is also having a setup at United States. So it's a global team. In different countries the people are. So global software development is the today present scenario. But these GSD also have their unique challenges or opportunities, or the thoughts, like they need proper coordination between people, the teams, collaboration, the communication, talk, and how do they do the decision making. This is very important in this decision making. Everything is being done on Zoom, Google Team, or any desk. Every software are there to help us. Right? So decision making, I'll take a specific thing here. Decision making is very important aspect here. And this is more complicated by certain factors. What is that? What is the complexity of the problem? If the problem is quite complex, the decision making will be more complex to get through. What are the risks and the uncertainty which is associated if the decision has been taken? Because the decision will not be taken in a meeting. It will be a global stuff, And what is the law of unintended consequences? That is, one person or one team does something, how this decision will have a ripple effect or propagated in an unintended way to the other objective. And different views of the problem, because everyone thinks differently. What are the different conclusions? So there is a complication in decision making when we talk about a global team. So as I said, various things are happening globally, and this is true with the software engineering as well. This is the figure which we would like to talk. This is the impact of distances on the challenges which the team face when they are doing it globally. So the barriers and the complexity, because the distance will complicate things. It will introduce certain problems. So the distance will complicate the communication. Somewhere it is day, somewhere it is night. So the coordination has to be there. And it introduces, as I said, where the cultural differences. Someone is talking in, say, Chinese accent. The other is in Nigerian accent. So one thing is to understand, to know what they are saying, and to draw the conclusion. So the use of this effective CDEs, which we talked about, this will dramatically reduce the impact of the distance, because distance is a barrier, but it will not stop the work. No work will be hindered. So this is all about the discussion here. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.